Moments when something happens and you don't know if the thing that happened was just a coincidence or a real deal, but you still end up thinking about it for a while. Just wondering if you're overthinking it or it's real. This happens with taekook a lot, way more than we can count. But I just still wanted to make a video naming 30 things or times that something related to taekook happened and seemed like a coincidence, but still kept us thinking, what if it's real? It's a top 30 video, so it's going to start from the things that didn't seem that serious to the ones that made us the most curious. Number 30. Dispatch giving hints about taekook with emojis. I've made a lot of videos related to this subject already, but it never made me less curious about the whole thing. I mean, a website that was rumored that they wanted to try to out a lot of different LGBTQ+ idols, starting to be interested in taekook and making all sorts of articles with them, even on things that weren't even taekook related. And not just that, Big Hit actually kept giving them a lot of contents, even though they could just work with any other website that were way bigger than Dispatch. But I think we can all agree that the most memorable time was when one of the members just posted these pictures and Dispatch reposted them on their Instagram with a camera, a 2 heart and 2 men holding hands emoji. Not to mention how even before it, they kept posting pictures of them and putting rainbow emojis beside their pictures. Number 29. Almost a year ago, a reporter published an article of Taeyang and Jungkook and called them a couple. A lot of K-Army were wondering why this happened. They looked into some other reports from that person that happened over that period of time. The reports of him doing with other 2 boys from other bands. But taekook were the only ones who were called a couple in his reports, which is something that still confuses a lot of us. Number 28. Strangely enough, we've seen taekook kiss a lot, like that time when they were sleeping together and Jungkook kissed Tae's cheeks, or the other time when Tae kissed Jungkook's hand, or when they both kissed each other's cheeks. But the thing that confuses all of us was when Jungkook kissed Tae's cheek, and how staff started cheering even though before that when other members kissed Tae's hair or hands, none of them really cheered that much. And then right after that, RM said, "Is it really okay to do this?" And it made us all wonder, why would he ask such a thing if it was a normal thing to show as a fan service? Number 27. Speaking of taekook kisses and RM, there was also another time when Jungkook was starting his adulthood years and RM just suddenly asked Taeyang to come and kiss him. I know, we all felt that way when we heard it. Number 26. During Bon Voyage in a part, Jungkook ended up cooking for Taeyang. When it was decided, Taeyang just stood up, sat on Jungkook's lap and said, "You're mine." The context of if he just meant mine as a teammate or something more intimate is still unknown. Number 25. I can give a lot of examples for this one, but sometimes their interaction seems a little bit extra. Last year during the standby time in Game Countdown, we got some very interesting taekook interactions. They literally couldn't look away from each other and goofing around during the whole performance, keep looking at each other's butt and in Jungkook's perspective, staring at it and then slapping it in a very subtle way. Then Taeyang purposely missed his handshake with Jungkook and Jungkook looked a bit off over it. But then Tae kept trying to get his attention back. Even Jimin said something about Taeyang to Jungkook and Jungkook just did this, neck shake. They laughed and it all ended by them being goofy together again. The whole interaction was very amusing in a way that we couldn't see if it was just them being playful Or something else was going on in there that we didn't know about. Number 24. BTS has a habit of using the same spoons, chopsticks, glasses, etc. But when it comes to eating things from each other's mouth, even they don't seem to be into it. But there was that time when Jungkook was feeding Tae, and the food fell, and as soon as it did, Jungkook just ate it. Some might say it's normal, but to the majority of people I've seen, it seemed very off, especially since we didn't see it happening with any other members. Number 23. Taekook acts happy and goofy a lot, but there are times that after their interaction, one of them just blushes or gets very shy over the interaction, or one of them just changes the level of their voice or tone of their voice to make it sound more masculine or cool. And it always makes us wonder, why does it keep happening with them? Why do they keep trying to look so cool, or why do they get shy over their interaction so much?
거야? 아니 저 형은 가위도 없어. 싸움 이런 거 우리가 좀 세팅하고. 야, 또 멤버들 이렇게 또 도와준다. 이런 멤버들 없습니다, 네?
왜요? 실수해서 왔어요?
아니?
그럼요. 이거 따라가라고. 저 파 들고 따라가라고.
Number 22. A long time ago, two videos were posted by fans and started circulating around. In the first video, it was said that a fan took a video of them kissing in the backstage of an award show. But it was very hard to see who they were or what they were doing, so it died out very soon. In the second video, in the other hand, the boys actually do look a bit similar to our boys. And it looked like one of them was pushing the other one toward a wall and their heads got really close together. But even that was a very difficult video to interpret. None of us know if those people in those videos were really them or if they were actually kissing or not. But let's be honest, a lot of us actually sat down and thought about it a lot because the possibility was still there of it being true. Number 21. We all know that the boys know a little bit about sign language and use it sometimes. For example, in one of their handshake that means I promise that I love you. They also use the I love you sign a lot with each other. For example, when Jungkook was sick and Tae just made it secretly and then Jungkook saw it and let him know. Or the other time when Taeyang was just talking and Jungkook did it randomly. Number 20. In the Mnet show, Taeyang stated that fake love is their story, referring to himself and either someone else or some other people. And while we were looking at the lyrics of the album, we realized that the first 7 songs were telling a connected story, which makes sense because even RM told us to pay attention to the first 7 songs. And then when we got to the 7th song that was produced or composed by Jungkook, he said that he was just telling us his story. Which made us wonder why they both kept saying that the songs were related to them. And if you pay attention to the story, it actually kind of matches their story. And it's not just that. I mean, I already made an analysis of it the other time, so you can check it out if you're wondering what the hell I'm talking about. But based on what we've seen, it's all very so overwhelming and a lot of things kept pointing at the same direction. So it makes us wonder, was it intentional or are we just looking too much into it? Number 19. Jungkook released a lot of covers and he told us to always pay attention to the lyrics because he always does the same. And a lot of times we've seen him pointing at a certain number and the number is 123. If you're wondering what does it have to do with Taeyang, well, 12/30 is actually his birthday date. So it actually made us think, why this number? And the interesting part is that if you look up to that second in some of his covers, you'll see that they are giving you a certain message. For example, this is what he says on 123 seconds on his cover called Paper Heart.
When there's cameras and I just can't reach out to tell you.
Also, we've seen him pronouncing a lot of words in his covers as if he's calling Taeyang's name, even though he's perfectly capable of pronouncing them all right in the same song. This could all be just coincidences, but they happen so repetitively it makes us wonder if they are intentional or not.
It's a beautiful life, beautiful day, beautiful life, beautiful day. 내 곁에서 머물러줘. Tell us the reason that this wasted on you. What's the reason that this wasted on you? Tell us the reason that this wasted on you.
Number 18. Even though it's very hard to see strange tensions between the members on cam, it's very easy to spot it when it comes to Taekook. They are usually always together, just being goofy and everything. So when they just stop doing that, when they avoid eye contact and looking sad at each other, you can actually see that some dramas are going on. They usually always patch things up very fast because you can see that even if one of them looks upset, the other one tries to just do something about it. But every time you have no idea why this is happening and who started it and what are they going to do next. Number 17. There are a lot of songs that Taekook sang together here and there, but every time they sing something together, it makes the whole thing a little bit intimate, like they actually mean every single word that they are singing together. It always makes us wonder, is this just acting or is something else in the middle too? And when they sang this song for each other. Number 16. We all know how possessive Jungkook gets when it comes to Taeyoung. Calling to check up on him when he's with Minjae, telling him to choose between him and Bogum, getting mad and walking away because Tae tells his actor Hyung's I love you but not them, looking very upset when Tae gets too close to others. Some say jealousy is normal with friends, but we know how jealousy is also a sign when people are in a relationship or when people have feelings for each other. So it's reasonable to wonder if this jealousy is a sign of them having something more or not. Number 15. In Korea, younger boys call older boys who are close to them Hyung. So it's reasonable for Jungkook to call all BTS members Hyung. But Tae should not call Jungkook that way because Jungkook is younger than him. That's why we're all so confused over why Taeyoung keeps calling Jungkook that way.
Jungkook, 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 Jungkook. 뭐가 어렵다니까 전정국. 넌 왜야? 네가 형이라고 했으니까 졌지. 전주가 잘 쐈다. 자 우리 1번. 축구하고 싶은가 봐. 형. 좋아 좋아. 야 우리 나.
Number 14. During the festa, Taeyoung mentioned that he always got support. But the most touching support he got was a letter from Yoongi. Said that it was very long and in the end he told them that he loved them. The other members pointed out that it was very unusual behavior from Yoongi. And he mentioned that he also sent one to Jungkook. And it brought a lot of confusion over why would Yoongi only send them such a supportive message. I mean, they are not family members, so they are not going to have family issues together. And if it's band related, then why is it just them? So it must be something related to only them. So it makes sense why a lot of people are wondering, what if it's actually a supportive message over them having a relationship? Number 13. Before the festa, the boys did a live talking about what we have to see in the festa on Mnet, and in the middle of it, Jungkook just started staring at Tae, smiling and saying that he had something important to say. Jimin just looked excited, Jin looked panicked, and RM said, "It's obvious what it is. I'll let you say it this time." But Jungkook just told us to look forward to it. Until this day, we still don't know what we had to look forward to. I mean, why he kept staring at Tae, and what was something that was important we didn't know, and RM had to give him permission to talk about, and it was also very obvious for them. Because we already know about his abs, we didn't get any mixtape, we didn't get anything special that matched everything they said. So even now, we still keep wondering what he wanted to say that he still hadn't told us. It wasn't even the only time. I mean, do you remember last year during their comeback show when he was with Taeyang and Taeyang said, "Everyone"? Then Jungkook was like, "Everyone what?" And Taeyang just sighed and said, "You just tell them." And they didn't say anything. Number 12. One of the strangest things that we have witnessed over and over has been staff separating Taekook. Like how it happened in Burn the Stage, with them taking Tae to an empty dressing room while Jungkook was sick so they could just film him, and he had to wait outside his room while others could just stay inside. There were a lot of cut scenes in there with Taeyang's voice being there but not his face every time he was near Jungkook. And also the latest one happened on the latest Run episode. It was when they had to sing together in teams. Taeyang, RM and Jimin were in the same team. Jungkook was with J-Hope and the other team was with Yoongi and Jin. And then all of a sudden Jimin said, "Hey, why don't we just put Taeyang in Jungkook and J-Hope's team because they have similar tastes?" But they just said no, and that was the end of it. Even Taeyang at first was like, "Yes, let's change it," but when they said no, he was like, "Okay, no." And we could even see how Jimin and Yoongi kept looking at the director. Or the whole drama in Bon Voyage when they just kept making Taeyang look like he didn't care about Jungkook, even though every time he was trying his best to give him as much as he could, like the whole food incident. So it makes us wonder, why only them? Why does this keep happening with them? If there's nothing going on, why does staff keep separating them? What's so necessary about it? Number 11. When they were in LA, a paparazzi tried to invade their privacy. And at first, Taekook were standing together, but then when the guy showed up, Yoongi just very subtly asked them to just stand apart and stood between them. We still don't know why this happened, but it was very interesting how as soon as the guys started filming, Yoongi just told them to stay apart. Number 10. Jimin. Since the beginning of the time, he had been making us question everything, posting of them and writing their ship name on it on Twitter, saying Jungkook we love forever, and clapping while Taeyang just writes his and Jungkook's name in a heart on sand, looking exposed when Tae asks Jungkook, "Had you been flirting?" Or pointing at both of them and shaking his head while they were singing and making eye contact only with each other. His reactions to Taekook every time something happens with them makes it really hard for us to think it's all really just a coincidence. Number 9. On 26th of January, which seems to be an important day for them, we saw them reserving seats at a very famous hotel in Seoul that is only a few minutes far from their actual home. We don't know if they actually stayed in any rooms in there, but we know they had to either reserve the seats from weeks ago or actually be a customer for their rooms in there to have those seats. And either way, it makes the whole thing a little bit questionable, because why that date, why only them, and why was it all planned? They didn't even hide behind any masks when they got there, so obviously people will recognize them. And from what I've heard from some K-ARMY, it was a scandal even for the Korean side. Number 8. Over the years, we have seen a lot of bruises on Jungkook or Taeyang that looked very similar to hikis or scratches. The interesting part is that sometimes they have it at the same time. People came up with different excuses over this, including they just punch each other on the neck, they burnt themselves making rice cakes during the award show, it's just a pimple, or shadow. But for real, just because they're Asian, it doesn't mean they make rice cakes on an award show. People don't constantly punch each other, especially not on the neck, collarbone, or abs. And Jungkook is not a wrestler. And it's very hard to believe that those two constantly just keep getting pimples at the same time. The last time we saw Jungkook with one of them was during this scene when he was showing his abs. And even though it's obvious that they were trying to hide it with a concealer, you can still see 4 obvious signs on his chest and stomach. And it made us wonder, is it just that they have the same skin conditions every single time, or they are actually having something going on? Number 7. During the behind the scene of Bon Voyage, Jungkook sat in front of Tae's room and started singing Nothing Like Us in a very emotional way. It made us question, why did he do that, and why did he look so emotional?
Nothing like us. It's nothing like you and me. Together through the storm. There's nothing like us. There's nothing like you and me. Together. Oh.
Number 6. During a V Live Jungkook had, Tae kept telling him to stop broadcasting. Jungkook at first was like, "Hey, I'm on live, what?" And Tae just lowered his voice and said, "To have some private conversation." The slang he used in Korea is something that K-armies say is something you used to say to make out. So when Jungkook quickly started trying to finish the live and Jimin jokingly kept making kissy faces, we all kept questioning a lot of things. Number 5. Even though taekook tend to be private about a lot of things, we still caught them flirting a lot in the past few years. For example, when Jungkook told Tae to just wear ties whenever he wants, and Tae just asked, "Should I only wear a tie in bed?" Or when during Blood, Sweat and Tears, he kept thrusting his hips up and pointing at Taeyang, which caused Taeyang to just look down shyly, and a lot of other times. Some say flirting is normal with friends, but some of us think, is it really? Number 4. We know how they always kept saying that they want to share a room together. Or members just accidentally sometimes said that they already are sharing a room together. But in their previous dorm, they said that RM and Tae were rooming together. But as we saw, they were staying in 2 different separate rooms, and the only door that could relate his room and RM's room was a door that was blocked by a lot of things all the time. So obviously they couldn't share any rooms together. But based on what we saw, there was another door that couldn't lead to RM but could lead to Jungkook's room, because we saw the same door on Jungkook's room. I already made a video about it before, so if you're confused, just check that out. But basically what we keep asking is that if Tae and RM weren't really rooming together, why did they keep saying that? Actually, the same goes for the current dorm they have, because at first they kept denying them having the same room, and at the same time, a few months later, they just said that yes, we are staying at the same living room, but we're separating it by something. But every time we saw something from the room, there was nothing to actually separate anything. Number 3. One time when Tae was having a live, he messaged Jungkook to ask if he could go to his room and ask where he is. And Jungkook quickly messaged him back to let him know where he is and he can come. When he got there, Jungkook asked who it was, but when Tae said that he was on V Live, Jungkook panicked and said, "Wait, I'm not wearing anything." And Tae had this suggestive look on his face when he let him in. And yes, Jungkook was alone. If he wasn't, then why would he tell Tae to come to the room that quickly? And yes, all the clothes that were on the ground or both phones were for Jungkook. It's not really that strange. So yeah, he was alone. But when Tae just left, he saw that his room was locked, or at least that's what he said. And the next time when we had a live from them, we saw Tae was wearing the exact same towel Jungkook had before, which made us think, first of all, why was he naked when he told Tae to go to his room? And then what happened after it when Tae couldn't open his door? Did he stay with Jungkook? And what was about the towel? Was it his own towel or was it Jungkook's? And how did he end up wearing it? Number 2. In 2 different situations we had the same experience. One time was during Jungkook's graduation when Jimin was filming. We could see a light shadow on Jimin's face as if something was in front of it. And then we could hear some faint kissing sounds, and then when the kissing sounds ended, we could see the shadow removing from it as if someone who was in front of him just went back. And then Jimin said congratulations and filmed in front of him where everything was taking place, and we saw that Taeyoung and Jungkook were the only ones in front of him, which made us wonder, were they kissing? Some say that it was just the sound of a seatbelt, but I think they just never heard how a seatbelt and kissing sounds like, because this doesn't sound alike at all.
마이모 졸업 축하한다.
The second time was during a V-Live Tae was doing, and it's interesting to note that it's the only V-Live that is on CH Plus channel. So that means you actually have to pay to watch it. It means most people can't watch that live. I don't want to analyze all of it right now, but a lot happened during it, including Tae just going back to change his clothes. And while he was changing his clothes, we could hear him talking to someone. We could even hear something like, "Stop." We could hear Jungkook laughing, and we could also hear some kissing sounds in the background until Tae came back. And when he came back, his lips looked a little bit more swollen than before when he left. It honestly was one of the things that made me just sit down, stare at nothing, and question everything.
거울 없이?
Number 1. During the DNA music video, we got a taekook moment of them singing, "Don't worry my love, none of these are coincidence. We are very different baby, because we are the ones who found destiny." And it happened while they were doing their handshake. And it made a lot of us wonder, was it just a coincidence? Or were they actually trying to tell us something? Which is ironic because the whole lyric is actually saying, baby, it's not a coincidence. Before ending the video, I just want to tell you something. I'm doing a project called Love Yourself Project. And from the name, I think you can tell that it's about loving yourself and also helping others to love themselves. It's also about the album they released, and it's also to appreciate all members and helping them to love themselves as well. I made a video explaining everything and how you can participate in my other channel. I'm going to put it in the comment section down below, so please check it out if you want. And if you can, please participate, because I really hope we can bring more love to this fandom. And for real, I really love all of you, and I really hope we all can move forward to what's better for all of us.
But I still